become an influencer, it gives you the edge that separates you from the competition. The GIP initiative, the Global Influencers Partners Program, is designed to expose you to over 5 billion potential consumers across the world. When you are a rising star in business and you need visibility, reach, impact, client conversion, and cash flow optimization, positioning yourself to become a global influencer may be the ideal tool that you need in your arsenal to win in business. I encourage you to join the GIP initiative and position your business to build confidence, trust, and credibility and cash flow optimize the fastest.
Today, we're going to be looking at a pretty interesting topic. The reality is that people rise and fall on their sense of self. So, the big question I want to throw to you is, what is the process to self-determination? We're going to do a deep dive into that topic today because of the fact that if you are not in a position of strength to self-determine, what impact can and normally that have on the growth of your business? In one of my books, I clearly said that people never rise beyond their sense of self. So in today's competitive world, you need to place a lot of emphasis on nurturing your true sense of self and allowing that sense of self to push you forward in business and in life. Today, we're going to have a pretty important, interesting conversation on this issue, and I have a team of dynamic personalities to join me in this conversation. I have one, Shivani Sinarain, and Shivani, she's a project management practitioner with tremendous years in the academic fraternity and years in practicing project management. I also have Paul Whitehouse, and Paul Whitehouse is a BFC, meaning a business finance consultant. He represents Patriot Business Finance Consultants, and he's the person that really helps you to access capital to grow and scale your business. Shivani and Paul, I want to welcome you guys to today's program. How are you guys?
Excellent.
Doing good.
All right. We are in a Christian holiday. Are you guys preparing to go raise the kite?
Sunday for me.
Sunday for you. I know Paul most likely can't raise kite because he has too much of skyscraper in front of him. All right. Great to have you guys, however. I want to begin today's program. Today, we are looking at self-determination and your brand. Again, we see many persons starts a business and they stay small. Is that a reflection of self-determination? On the other side, we see many persons start small and very quickly they're able to scale their brand up. Is that also elements of self-determination? So what I want us to do is to begin by just looking at what is your definitions of self-determination as we do that deep dive into today's program. Shivani, your thoughts?
Thanks, Gary. Lovely to be here. And well, it's a holiday in Trinidad, so it's nice to be here on a holiday. You catch what
It's
I'm saying?
always, yeah, yeah, it's always helpful to serve. We are servant leaders. So
Right.
we show up every day, any day. We show up to serve.
And it's such a relevant topic, I think, with self-determined. You want to do
Mission.
something, and you're not influenced by. For me, self-determined, if I have to define it, it's where I determine whatever I want. I'm not letting the environment influence me. Now that is a very strong statement to say, right? In the sense
It,
that
it is. It
a lot
is.
of us would be influenced by the environment because this is the world that we live in. So just yesterday, actually, I was having a conversation with someone like this. So I went to a few places recently, and normally if you go there, or somebody else, probably not you, may be thinking, oh, the environment is, this place is dirty, or the couch shouldn't be here, or the fridge shouldn't be here. You look at the environment. The environment influences everything, how you think, how you feel. However, I went to the same environment like someone else, and somebody might say, well, probably something is wrong with me, but I was not seeing what the person was seeing. I really wasn't seeing, because I went in there, I went to relax, and the environment was not, I wasn't studying, so to speak, Gary, where,
Yeah.
how the place was looking. So to me, self determination is when you are not influenced by outside factors. So this is what you want to do. You came to give a talk, probably the lighting might be bad, but you're not influenced by it. You're not influenced by it. You went there for a purpose. And I love to have conversations around this topic, because it is something that, can we really do something like that? Is it that you could teach somebody to become more self determined and not be influenced by outside factors? And this was the type of conversation I was having with the individual as well. Can we, for me, if it happens to me that the environment influences my thinking, I know something is wrong, right? And I mean, you might think about it more from a philosophical point, but then I have to look at self and determine, why is it that the environment is affecting me so much? And you said it, you have to become more, about self. You have to know self first in order to lead, in order to know, to be an entrepreneur, to be a business person anywhere. So that's how I wanted to start this conversation when you asked me the question. Self determination for me is where I'm not influenced by outside environments. And the moment that I feel that I am influenced, I have to sit back and actually say, but why it is? What has gone wrong? Because personally, I am not an individual that will be affected by the outside environment. I come from the background of facilities management. And yes, you have to prepare the space properly, a facility, for, let's say, if I'm coming to teach or something, you have to prepare the space for me. But I'm coming for, as a teacher, and then I'm also coming as the facilities manager. And in these two areas. So even if the space is not what I want, the lighting, the computer, Zoom, or whatever it is, you keep with the purpose. That's what I'm trying to say. You keep with the purpose, and you allow yourself now to be driven by the purpose. I think it's a very difficult thing to do. I don't think it's a very easy thing for people to do. And the question will be, how do we do it? Is this something that's built into us? Is this something that is built into us, or is it something that we could learn? So over to you for now, and then I'll come back.
Well, Shivani, I really love how you start the conversation, and I love how you begin to examine what exactly self-determination is. And I do believe that you're right. I do believe for the average person, it is not the easiest thing to self-determine. And I can go at research that we have done many years ago that points this out. First of all, what we are seeing is that for you to self-determine, it's important for you to have a strong sense of self, a strong sense of purpose, and a strong sense of direction. And in most cases, most persons are not socialized to think in this way in the earliest stage of life. In fact, many persons, you have to figure this out by yourself. I think for some people, because of the career that they're in, the career in itself forces deep thinking. And because of deep thinking, they mature much faster in terms of self-determination. For example, I think that you are in a pretty good field, which is project management. And one of the things that project managers are trained to do, you're trained to see not only the beginning of that process, but the middle and the end. And I think with years of practice, training the mind to see through a process really shapes the mind in terms of what the mind can do. So you're in a very unique position there. The other career that I see helps in self determination is market research. Because the market research, the historian, they are on the ground, they are collecting information, and because they are constantly collecting information, they are able to do that critical analysis. They're able to analyze things faster, and they're able to make what I call informed decision faster. And I think that these are some of the type of careers that actually help in the process. But I want to come back to some historical facts that we have seen. I could recall during my studies of marketing, we were introduced to a concept that we call the self image theory. And one of the things that we see with the self image theory is that it represents four selves. And in most cases, you find that many persons they struggle with these selves without actually knowing them. And self one, you have what is known as the ideal self. The ideal self is you as you see yourself. You know, sometimes you see yourself in a particular way, but then you are not exactly that self. It's the self that you would like to be, and you see that. And sometimes, and this is the self that is influencing your decisions in business, your decisions in life. Is that good or is that bad? And perhaps with time we can do some examination of that. So you have the ideal self, but then on the flip side of that, you have the self image.
Mhm.
The self image is really how you see yourself here and right now. And in my experience in interfacing with people, I've seen some queer things. You know, I've seen some exceptionally, beautiful, people that didn't have that sense of self. They just didn't have that sense of self. And for me, it was baffling why that is so. All right. That is telling you that there's fracture somewhere in their socialization to life. And I can only share my experience. But in advertising and marketing, you're also trained to diagnose all of this. All right. Because when you're looking at your consumer type, if you don't understand your consumer type, you're not able to make an informed and educated decision as to how to influence a particular outcome. So we went into these things. Now let's look at the third self. The third self is what we talk about the looking glass self. And this is a pretty interesting self because I think sometimes we all passes through this, at some point of our life. And the looking glass self is that self that really is the people pleaser. You might be part of an organization. You might be a church, might be some type of community organization, and you know that they have established that this is how you should operate in the operation, or even without establishing it, you know that there's certain things that you cannot do in a religious environment. There's things that you can do. There are things that you should and should not do. And there are people that goes into this environment clearly knowing that they are not a perfect example to represent the institution, but they go, they fit in, and they, blend in. And when they are out of that institution, then what you call the true self comes out. So it's like you project a certain image in the institution to convey to the public that, hey, this is how I really am. I'm pious, I'm Christian, I'm humanitarian, but you're really not all of that. You're just projected an image And if we are allowing this to help us to self determine, I see a major challenge there. The last one that I will look at is the real self. And this self that I'm about to talk about, I think, is the one that is so outstanding, the real self. And this is something that we all struggle with, the real self, because what is the real self? And in most cases, you're never exposed to this throughout your entire lifetime. In very unique cases, perhaps at the tertiary level of education, you are given some degree of exposure to this, and that depends on the programs that you're doing. Perhaps if you're doing a program in psychology, they may go deep into this to help you to understand this, because this plays a very pivotal role in the question self-determination and your brand. So we have, but what exactly is the real self? The real self, in my definition, is that unique person that you are, and each one of us, we have our own uniqueness, and that uniqueness is, I want to say, a very, very outstanding uniqueness, because what the real self says that it doesn't matter where you came from, it doesn't matter where you are, there is something inside of you that has the greatest potential to be greater than the greatest thing that you have known in this world. So inside of us, all of us, we have that ability to be great, to be exceptional, to be outstanding, regardless of what society throws at us. But the reality is that we are never able to get in touch with that because perhaps of socialization, education, opportunity, and all of those different things. And I really believe that the earlier we can get in touch with the real self is where the transformation can start to take place in our lives, in our organizations, and in society as a whole. I know it's a long winded answer, but my thoughts. Go ahead, Shabadi. I know you will probably ask the question. Go ahead.
No, it's just really to build from the point before Paul comes in. You
Yeah,
spoke about self, and people have to have a greater sense of self. This is the whole point of the conversation.
yeah,
And again, it triggered another conversation that I was having with somebody recently.
yeah,
Are we, if you are saying something and you are speaking, is it that you have to speak that particular way? Or we may talk about it as being broken language, right? A different type of language. It's not, may not be seen as the Queen's English. However, is that okay to do? And again, society may tell us differently, that you go up into a public forum and you should not bring in your way of your way, and you should just be, this is the correct way to do it. But I personally believe that is a downfall as well, right? This is just my opinion. It is a downfall as well, because you are not bringing your true self. And when you bring your true self with whoever you are, if you are from the Caribbean, wherever you are in the world, you have, it's something, as you said, unique. So even if I love to tell stories, and some of my stories may not be at a certain global level or whatever, but this story takes me very far. So, this topic just reminds me so much of how people need, and I remember social media is something that you follow too. So, if you see somebody doing something, you think that is the best way. But is that the best way? Um, so, my point really is that persons need to really believe in who you are. Um, and where whatever you are bringing yourself, and yourself could be really, 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 really good. Not can be, will be really, really good. So don't try to copy something else. And I find this is also a downfall in leadership. In leadership, people are not self-determined. They copy they believe this is how to lead, somebody else tells them that. So they are not bringing their unique perspective, and especially in crisis in organizations, because a lot of times you have crisis in organizations. How is it then that you could get out of this? If there's a crisis, you could only get your team out of something if you bring true self and you allow people to self-determine and autonomy and all these great stuff. So it was just something that you said there that reminded me. People, if you do not self-determine or you do not understand really yourself, you're going to be copying other people. And if you're in leadership roles, you'll realize, wait, this thing is not working, and everything will fail. That's what I see. As I mean, that's my point.
Yeah, they call it imposter syndrome. And I
Mm-hmm.
know Paul will hear this term a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
perhaps on Clubhouse. And I think it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
When we talk about self confidence and being yourself, it's not easy because I
Nope.
don't believe most people are socialized to flow from that inner beauty. But Paul, I would love to have your thoughts. Of course, we're going to come to capital and the role capital on this, but we're going to come to that just now. Just your thoughts on the concept of self-determination and what it is and how important is this to you?
I was kind of gonna. I hope I can make this all make sense because I was going to go in a certain direction, but what Shivani said really took me in another direction. Um, and then the topic you guys were just talking about, imposter syndrome. You got to be yourself. You can't show up and fake or speak it a certain way. You just totally got to show up and be yourself. But okay, self-determination seems so simple and it seems like such an obvious answer, and I think it is. Instead of making it complicated, it totally is simple, just like most everything else. But the way Shivani spoke it, it made me think of something that me and Bob did. Bob's my business partner, and we didn't even cross our mind to describe it as any certain way. We just did it, like we just did it. We didn't even consider it. So, Freeway Rick Ross, he is a person that we wanted to meet. He was speaking in Detroit. We wanted to see him. Did I have to sit there and like fire myself up and drum myself up and say I'm determined to go do this? I I I didn't because we just did it. Now, it was in Detroit. You hear Detroit, it's a rough city. When you got to where we went, it was absolutely a rough city. And we told a person, well, it's Bob's cousin and a longtime friend of mine. I've been friends with Chris since I was 14. Chris is the type of guy when we were kids who was beating up, he's 18 years old, beating up 40-year-old men in bars. Chris, 3 black belts. Chris is like a dynamo. You don't want to fight Chris. We told Chris where we went. He goes, I'd never go there. Okay. But we went there and we didn't think about it. We just showed up. So self-determined. Did knowing where we were going, did we have to push ourselves to do it? I think I'm really screwing this story up. I had it perfectly laid out while Shivani was talking. Now I'm like scattered. I don't even know what to say now. I'm trying to drive towards a point. Um,
I believe you guys had to self-determine, and I think that's a good example
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I do believe sometimes, when you're in your comfort zone, you tend to stay to your comfort zone, and leaping from where you were to Detroit, I think it's a big leap to get on that plane. I can remember that trip, because you were here with us, and to actually go, leave that your comfort zone, go on that trip, get the experience, learn from it, build from it. To me, that plays a very pivotal role in helping you or anyone else to self-determine.
but that was a different trip. I'm talking like 3 years ago. The
Oh, that was
first
a different trip.
that
Okay,
was Los Angeles. This is Detroit.
okay.
So Were we self-motivated? Do we have to? No. And maybe that's because me and Bob are probably weird. Like we'll go anywhere and not care. I mean,
You're natural.
should
You're
we have been
natural.
should we have been concerned for our safety? Well, we were. We're not like walking around blind. We're looking around. We know where we're at, but we were going there. We needed to meet him, and we were going to go wherever it could meet him. So maybe that's kind of what I'm trying to tie in. I'm not recommending everybody else go do that. Like, don't go to one of the worst sides of some. There is not many good sides of Detroit. Let's just say that. So don't go to Detroit without being careful, or maybe some bodyguard. But yeah, it was a rough place. It was real rough, and
Okay.
but we were accepted there, and that's the thing. Maybe that's the point that's coming out that I wasn't even trying to make. You can do something, however you got there, not thinking about it blindly or having to fire yourself up and be self-determined. And okay, that's what it was. That's kind of my point. We were determined to meet him. And anytime you're determined to do anything, I mean, you're self determined. Nobody determines you for yourself.
Mhm.
You are self determined. So anytime the word determined exists in what you're doing, you're actually self determined to accomplish that task. And and then I guess you just got to be determined slash self determined to accomplish any task. And anytime a task is completed, if it's really like a task, I don't have do not have to be determined to get up, go out there, pick up a bowl and feed my dog, right? That's not much. But then you got to level up other things that actually require determination. Like getting up and doing something important, traveling a distance to do it, or taking a big risk, or after you've taken that risk, continuing through it because the task is going to take you 3 years and you know it going into it. You, if you're taking on a task that's going to take time, you better be self-determined. Otherwise, it's going to fail, and or have the ability to motivate yourself, to push yourself. If you're tired, do it anyways. Whatever, self-determined to do what needs to be done to get there. If you don't have self-determination, you're not going to go far in life because you'll be able to get up and go feed the dog and go do this. That doesn't require much self-determination. But to go do bigger things, you have to have determination. You just do. And if you don't have it, good luck, you know?
Great. Um, Paul, you raise a very important point, perhaps without actually saying it. Um, I think that one of the things that people have to struggle or fight against is fear. And fear can be a major factor that prevents you from being the best version of yourself. So what I want to do, I want you to, I'm going to come back to fear just now. But Paul, what I want you to do for me also is just give me your thoughts. I'm going to come back to you just now, Paul, on the role that access to capital can play in terms of self-determination and your brand. Let us suppose you have a business idea, but you don't have the capital. Now you get access to capital, perhaps fear gets in the way, but you fight your way through fear and you now have access to capital. How important is capital in building that brand and perhaps taking that brand uh, from a local brand to a national brand to a regional brand to an international brand. So think about it. I'm going to come right back to you just now. But the question I want to throw out right now, I think so far we would have examined some of the importance of self-determination. People never grow beyond their sense of self. Your business will never grow beyond your sense of self. So that's why we're having this type of conversation today. But the question I want to throw out now is what is standing in your way of self determination? And I'm going to start first with the a concept that Paul threw out. Is it fair? Is fair standing in your way of self-determination? The second, is it socialization? Because sometimes the way we are socialized to life, we are socialized to think small and to stay small. Don't break through the glass ceiling. That's a socialization that can really keep you in check. Um, to whose interest is that serving? And you need to be aware of that, particularly when you want to take ownership of your life and mastery of your life. The third concept that we can look at is mythology, because sometimes, depending on the culture that you're coming from, there are certain myths that you are hearing that can literally hijack your ability to self-determine. And just let me give two examples of mythology. And because in recent, well, over a few years now, I start to do some dig dive into these things because, again, these things have tremendous impact on our ability to self-determine. I Many persons who might have had this carving experience, or perhaps is a global phenomenon. Your parents would say things to you like, "Good things comes to those who wait." All right, good things comes to those who wait. Is that a factual statement? Is that a cultural statement? Is that a mythology? Um, I can recall many years ago as I began to do a deep dive into words and meaning and how it's impact people's life. I began to ask myself, okay, good things comes to those who wait. How long is the wait? Who am I waiting on? And what guarantee do I have that I'm going to get the results that I want? So you find something that this statement is made, and because it's a cultural thing, it's a way of life, you hear it, you tend to believe it, but then you don't analyze it. And recently I was hearing the vice president of Guyana was saying that, many persons in the region are not analytical, and perhaps the statement is true because you hear things, but very often you don't pause a bit and analyze it. You just allow that concept, that idea to dominate your sense of self, your way of thinking. And that I believe that that can be one of the biggest deception, and it is something that can literally hijack your sense of self. Because my belief is that when you become a person that wants to self-determine, that kind of thought is not getting in your head. Good thing comes to those who wait. I ain't waiting on nothing. I ain't waiting on nothing. I want to start a brand. I want to grow the brand. I want to scale it. And I'm going to go to the ground and I'm going to be a critical thinker. I'm going to be a mover and a shaker. I'm going to be proactive. And I'm going to drive the success story that I want. So, what is standing in your way of self-determination? Is it fear? Is it socialization? Is it mythology? We have all of these things that is really played out with our minds. And sometimes most people are not able to pause and say, hey, enough is enough. I'm taking control. Shivani, your thoughts?
I love what you said, Gary. I was going to drink coffee and I stopped when you said, "Good things come to those who wait," right? And that's a saying that we have been hearing our whole life. Now, I don't agree with that statement at all, at all, at all. Right? I can't wait. People might think something is wrong with me. I cannot wait. I want everything now. However, I understand, right? I can't say I want everything, everything, everything. I lie. I say I want everything, right? And I want it now. So
Aim for the sky. There's
yeah.
nothing wrong if you get halfway there.
So good things come to those who wait. I don't like, and I think that has culturalize our training, our teachings, even in schools. That's how you are trained. You go to school, you get up, you learn a little piece, you learn again, and you learn and you learn, and eventually by the time you reach a certain age you will learn a lot. But when people do reach that age of retirement or what have you, you would realize, but wait, I was waiting and I'm still waiting. I didn't really reach what I was supposed to reach, what it told me I'll reach. So we have to
Exactly.
analyze, is that going to really be working? Now, I'll take it from a project management point. And I want to really, something Paul said too, and with process, you go through the process step by step by step, incremental. But he didn't do that when he wanted to go to Detroit, right? He just jumped through certain processes. Bam, I want to do it, and bam, I go. Now, what he's really talking about, it reminded me, and is a talk that I'm doing a little write up on it as well, which is known as the leap,
Shivani, not cutting you. Paul is among the privileged few.
the privilege
Yeah,
through. But we are
few.
with
Yeah,
him.
he can do things.
Yes, so
He has
I
economics
put him
at
through.
his disposal. I just want to rub you a little bit. Yes, Shivani,
He
go
will,
ahead.
he will rub off on us. So
Yes, definitely.
yeah. So what he was talking about, and generally, I mean, this is a strategy that we should take more of, which is known as the leapfrog strategy. Yes, you said it too when you said about leaping, and it reminded me. It just triggered again. Leapfrog strategy, where are you really waiting and waiting and waiting, or could you determine just leap and go for the big wins? Now, this is how I look at it always, and in project management, to me, you're waiting, you're doing piece by piece, and you're not really seeing anything. You're not seeing anything of value. So the leapfrog strategy, whether you're doing it in projects, you're doing it in life, you're doing it wherever, sometimes miss out some of those processes. Somebody analyze, and we talk about it as a value stream mapping. What is really important? What's the most important process? All you were saying, get up in the morning and go. And to me, that's the most important. Get up in the morning and just do it. Right? I mean, you might have to brush your teeth and drink coffee, but you can do that on the way. You could drink your coffee on the way as you go into Detroit, right? So
Yeah.
leapfrog strategy, it's changing our thinking. It got to change our thinking. Is it then that you see self-determination for people is influenced by what you learn, the environment, how comfortable and how confident that you feel in something. And to me, it comes back to teachings. Our whole system taught us in a different way, which is come to school, learn a little bit, go through the system, do a degree, work hard, take 4 years to do a master's, then you're going to do a research paper. So every topic that I talk about comes back to training and development of people. How can we now change that in order to become more like the leapfrog? How do you change that to become more of the leapfrog? So self determination needs to be taught in a different way. And if anybody out there really, is learning it a different way, come tell us. I want to know, because I know the traditional way of teaching is not teaching us these things. And we will change it, because this is why people are here. You're changing it. So I love what Paul said in terms of just going, just doing, which is leapfrog. And that's why I get along good with Paul, right? Because I leapfrog him too. And you said that he rubbing off on us. So good.
All right, great share, Shivani. Before opening up to Paul, I want to share another myth. Um, and only last evening, I was driving, the kids and the wife, we were driving. And it is something that we observe very often. You ever find that, I don't know if it's happening in your country, Shivani, but there's some folks like when you buy a car, they say if you don't want people to bad eye the car, put a red string or a red cloth on the car. And once you put the red string and the red cloth on the car, people not gonna bad eye the car. But here what's happened. You'll be driving, right? Car ain't got no red string, so you ain't got no time with car. But all in car that got the red string, you're looking at the car. That's a track. But the reverse is happening.
Yeah.
So this thing stand out very, very clear. In recent times, and I find myself talking about it, the very things that you were taught to do to repel people from bad eyeing you is the very same thing that you're doing to cause people
Bring it,
to
yeah.
bad.
Mhm.
And here is where the mythology comes in. And perhaps Barajagdio, the vice president of Guyana, was right when he said that, people are not critical thinkers. These are things that I believe that we need to start training our people to think through and start thinking for themselves and really bring themselves to that point where they can self-determine. All right, because so long that these mythology continue to hijack our way of thinking, it is getting in the way of self-determination and our personal branding and our corporate branding. So I do believe at some point we need to have a team of smart thinking persons to bring these myths to front, break them down, build them up back in an effort to help humanity to self-determine. And that's just some of my thoughts on the myth. There's a lot of myths. I can go into a whole lot more, but I do believe that we need to talk about some of these issues. It's affecting human growth. And again, people can never grow beyond their sense of self. So if you're in business and these things are limiting how you think and you're in fear, it's going to limit how the business transform and perhaps how the economy itself transform. Paul, how are you? Can you talk to us perhaps a little bit about how fear or the role of how capital plays into all of this? You can share on some of what we would have talked about, but you can also come in and give us your view on how capital can help to build confidence and, for person when it comes to self-determination. All to you, Paul.
Thank you. Well, capital makes everything easy. I mean, that's a given. So without it, it's more difficult. With it, it's easier. It has to be part of the plan. If you're a project planner and you don't have capital, as Shivani has said before, it doesn't start. So, but there's different levels of that. I'm going to tie it into what you asked me a little bit earlier. Okay, if you have a person with with an existing business that is suffering, okay, and he needs a cash infusion to get that to where it needs to be, he's got to be determined to. His determination is to take his business from here to there. How's he going to get the capital? If he goes to the bank, let's say there's a difficult credit situation. If he goes to the bank and the bank says no, and his efforts stop right there, well then things die. Your business is going to just be where it's at, and get worse, and you're going to accept the fact that you've been told no. Then enter determination, and determination does not exist without motivation. What, are you going to be determined about nothing? You have to have something to be determined about. You cannot be determined to get to zero. I don't think. Maybe it's possible. Maybe I'm not
That
thinking.
means you're marking time.
But I think you have to have motivation, a reason. So that same scenario with the guy who was told no by the bank. Okay, let's say he gets more determined. He finds somebody like me who has programs that the banks don't offer. And even I can't help him, which I can't help everybody. I can get most deals done, but there are deals that I can't get done. So let's say he gets determined, does research, asks questions to people, finds out that Patriot Business Finance Consultants exists, he gets to us, we put him through the process, and it's that type of deal. It just cannot be done. Should his determination stop? No, absolutely not. It shouldn't. He has to keep that same level of determination to get to his end goal, which is to get the chunk of money he needs to put the process in place for his business to go to the next level. So what can that type of determination result in for him? Man, it can result in finding that right person who will say yes, or because that happens, or finding that right type of person who will come in and be his business partner. Like, you can find whatever you're looking for, you can find it. That's true. That's true no matter what. Whatever you're looking for, you can find it in one form or another. And if we're talking about capital, capital comes in many forms. It comes in bank loans. It comes in equipment financing. It comes in sale leaseback. It comes in a lot of forms. But another form that it comes in is I got such a good thing going on, but I got a problem with it. And I worked through the mud. I took a bunch of no's. I kept on going. I didn't give up. I kept on looking. All of a sudden, I meet Shivani, and Shivani and I have this interest in common. The business is industrial hemp fiber, and Shivani she's into that. She wants to save the world with industrial hemp fiber. So she sees what I'm doing, and I wouldn't have met her if I wasn't determined enough to make it past the no at the bank, to make it past everybody who said no to me. All of a sudden, I meet Shivani at a mixer because it's it's 8 o'clock at night. I'm tired, and this is an industrial hemp fiber mixer. And I was tired, but I was determined enough to work through being tired and not care about that. And I had to drive 4 hours to get there. And all of a sudden, I got a good result because I met Shivani, and she said, "I love what you're doing. I've seen you on LinkedIn. Let's work together. I can fund this project for you and we can work it out." Self determination is very important. I mean, yeah, and you don't have it unless you got something to some type of motivation. Your family's your motivation. There's a story. I forget what year it happened. This was definitely I don't know if it was 90s or early 2000s, but this guy was motivated, and so was the mother. She was motivated. Somewhere out west in the United States, this couple with an infant baby drove down a road that was actually not a road, a service road, right? Massive storm hits, their car breaks down, they're snowed in, and nobody's going to come find them. No, but they don't plow that road. So they stayed in the car for a few days. They had gas, right? They start the car on up, fire it, warm it up, turn it off, conserve the gas. They were there. They were totally dead stranded, and they were doing what they could do. They made the decision to leave the car and start walking. And usually that's a bad idea. You're always supposed to stay with your vehicle. But they started walking, and it got to the point where he knew that he would have to be the one that went forward. So they found a cave. The mother and the infant stayed in the cave, and the guy somehow he was able to get back to that cave, but he kept on walking, frozen feet, frostbite. He had some serious motivation, right? His family staying alive. He made it. He came back, but they both had motivation. The motivation was to keep the baby alive, right? And they were determined. He was determined to do it. He pulled it off. You can do great things with determination.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. I do believe that self determination is about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think too many people have become comfortable. They are comfortable in their comfort zone, and they now begin to limit their potential to grow. So I really love that. Another example that I want to give Paul is when I look at Jennifer Lopez, I have so many names I can reflect on when it comes to self determination. Uh, Jennifer Lopez, she had to go against the grain of believing in her mom because Jennifer, she had big dreams of becoming a celebrity. But her mom says to her, why should a Latina girl like you be having these falsified notion about yourself? Go to school, get a good education, go get a job. And I recall that one of the things that Jennifer did, she left home and she was sleeping on her dance gym floor for over a year or close to a year. Why? Because she was determined for success. And I think within the year, she starts to get opportunities for dance, and she become more visible and more visible today. She is among the wealthiest women in the world. And had she stayed in that comfort zone, had she allowed herself to be beaten down by her own mom, I mean, her mom had good intention. Her mom don't know what her mom don't know. Her mom wanted to protect her, but she had bigger dreams. And had she allowed those negative voices to be the predetermining factors in her life, today we would have never had a Jennifer Lopez that we can sit at home, you know, relax and look at some good music, healthy music, and shake her head or her leg, listen to those music. And to me, that definitely is a true example of self-determination. We can look at KFC, another example. He didn't make it until he was in his 60s. When he retired, the man take his retirement check and invested in his dream because he was determined
Yeah.
to become an icon. And if he did not do that, today we would not have had KFC the way that we know it. I want to say a couple of things. And then the question I want to throw next is, can we separate one's ability to self determine to how far the business is able to scale? So can we separate this? Can we say that, hey, in my mind, I am not trained or I'm not positioned to self-determine, but I have a business and my business can grow beyond my belief of self. So I just wanted to try to out for some thoughts. Is there connection? Is there separation of these things? So what I want to share just before I come back to that question is there need to be training, I believe, a lot to help people to have a strong sense of self. I think in the absence of having a strong sense of self, you're going to have more people who become vulnerable or cave in when it comes to this concept of self-determination. We need to train people to have that strong sense of self. We need to train people very early in their life to understand what is purpose, because many persons go through their life and never discover what is purpose. And I personally had a struggle with that many years of my life. I thought that by, passing your academics and having this piece of paper, you now know what is purpose. But I could recall, having that piece of paper in front of me. You have a diploma, you have a degree, and you're still looking at it, and you said, "But I feel empty because I just don't know my purpose in this earth." And fortunately for me, I discovered that our purpose, regardless of where we're at, is to serve others. As a doctor, we serve. As a teacher, we serve. As a lawyer, we serve. As a government official, we serve. So it's really to help people to understand uh, how to find purpose in serving, to uplift humanity and society as a whole. The last one that I'm going to put here is we need to train people to master their sense of direction. If we can train people to come to that point where they have a clear sense of direction as to where they want to go with their life, it helps. I mean, you may have a direction today, it may change, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the important thing is that you must have a sense of self, a sense of direction that you're going with your life. That helps you to be anchored. All right. And over time you can change course and you could develop it, because life is about self-actualization. The course that you're on today doesn't necessarily mean it's the course that you're going to be on tomorrow. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you're evolving as a human. You're going into your self-actualization. So you have to leave the room open for that kind of development to take place, for that kind of flexibility to take place. Things change, and as a human, you are allowed to change based on the reality of on the ground. The important thing here too, you can be influenced and allow the influence to change you. Or the good thing about it too, you have this at your disposal too. You can be the influence that is fostering change, but you can only do that when you learn how to self determine. So that's just a little bit more I want to share. So a couple of things that I want to us to now examine is the separation of self-determination from the business. Is it separate? Could we achieve one without the other? And what does that look like? Shivani, you want to? But just before Shivani, I love some of the points that Paul would have made, because Paul spoke about the role that capital can play in helping the individual to self-determine. And I can say this: what you said is so important, because guess what? I interface with hundreds of businesses and many small businesses. I could recall as I started business as a consultant, I was exposed to an institution and association that had hundreds of small businesses. And they will always say to you, access to capital is my demise. So they were seeing access to capital as the pathway to realizing their success in business. Now, what I saw about that was good in one sense. Each of these players, they had made a conscious decision that this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do, but I have barriers to my success, I have barriers to my dream, and access to capital is the common denominator. I just don't have it. So it is undermining my ability to self determine. So access to capital plays a very pivotal role in helping people to self-determine. And what we do here is provide a platform to help people to make their breakthrough. And that is why we are set up to offer capital to 50 states in the US. So wherever you are in the US, you can come to us and you can talk to us about where you're at in business, and we will do whatever we can to help you to access capital. So, Paul, I will come right back to you to ask you to talk to us about the different financial instruments that you have, because a possibility exists that we have similar business right in the US that need access to capital. Have a clear vision as to where they want to go. They just don't know how to capital, but we can help them. So, Paul, I'll come right back to you for you to share some thoughts on the different instruments that we have and how we can help them. Shivani, your thoughts on self-determination and how far an individual can go in business. Can we separate the two, or the two must merge? Your thoughts.
So, in order to scale up, right now, remember, people can get easily demotivated. Easily demotivated. So, you might realize that you have a startup, you're making bare minimum, you're covering the costs, and you can get fed up, right? You get fed up because you realize that you have to put in too much into this. And then I have seen certain persons who may say, "This isn't worth it now. Let me go back into a normal 8 to 4 job," right? So you give up. You give up in terms of the business because you you realize it's too much. You couldn't get the capital again, and it comes back again to me not being able to get the funding. If you realize that you're not getting the funding to move on to another phase of your project or your business, well, the business is different projects, as we keep saying, and you don't get the funding, well, then you really can't do anything. So to me, that's the most important aspect. How could I self-determine if I don't have the money? I need to get the money. And self-determined meaning that, it's part of me, and yeah, I could do it and I could do it. Right. Well, I could only do it, especially in business, if I get money. That's what it is. I need to get money. So how do you do something like that? This is where networking will come in. You have to keep speaking to the correct people. Put yourself with the correct people. Could it be done? Of course, it could be done, right? I would like to say we are the correct people that you could come and chat, right? So put yourself with the correct people, because you cannot then, you're thinking, because think about it like this, Gary. We think how different people think, right? So if I am with you and you think a certain way, you might rub off on me. So self-determination in business, put yourself with people who self-determined too, who have that way about them, and find the people. There are people that will do it. It comes back again to having, for me, get the money to do the job, to continue. You have to find the money to get it. It in project management, we talk about it from an agile way, where you do little and you get all the money for phase one. And I'm saying little, don't get me wrong, and saying that this is not in, it's just some small thing that you're doing, but it's something of value. So whatever I'm showing, whether it is piece by piece and increment by increment, it is value. If it is not value, take it out of the process, forget it, right? Immediately forget it. So a lot of times people mix up this agile talk in project management. And I mean, this is what we're taking into business. And we're saying, okay, you do piece by piece, and the good things, as they say, will come in the end. No, 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 no. We're not saying that at all. We're saying, yes, you're doing piece by piece, incremental, no problem. But whatever I show you in business, it will be something that could make enough money for me to survive and to go for the next phase. That's what it's supposed to be. The outcomes is what I want. So when people keep talking about increment and piece by piece, when you're talking about it piece by piece, somehow I think that concept needs to really be revisited. Right? The piece by piece, ending up with something in the end. Careful what you end up with the end, right? It mightn't be what you want because you wait so long and the thing become obsolete. So I am not saying do piece by piece and eventually you're going to get the whole at the end. Do piece now and give me something now from that. That is what it is. Do piece now and give me something now from it, which is value. So self-determination, don't think that you have to wait and wait and wait. No, we're not saying that at all. We're breaking it up into pieces. We're pumping the money into the thing. We're getting the funding, and we're showing something of value. Value that I could survive and I could do more with that money. And then I keep growing and growing and growing. So I'm not waiting 20 years to get the retirement. I mean, he locked out there, KFC, right? KFC locked out there. And I mean, that was
Yeah.
perseverance. And that is probably, a lot of people look at those stories and think we have to wait. I'll take my retirement money. I'll work everything until then and then do it. But think about if you get the funding now, you don't have to wait for that big check. You might get 20 big checks down the road after because you start to do it now and you do piece by piece and you get value. You get value. So self-determination and business, there is a relationship. Of course, there's a relationship. But how do you do it? We have to be taught how to do this thing, right? If it is not part of us, if you're not in a class teaching it to you, because there will be classes doing it, I'm sure, right? I'm involved in doing a course curriculum, teaching people different topics that could help you. And we are also saying that in order to grow your business, you need to be self-determined. Do not give up. But I don't give up if I can see something every month or every 2 months of value. Then I say, wait, this thing really working. So do it in smaller increments and you will become self-determined. But the smaller increments is big things, It's not no small thing. It's things of value that I have to show. Yeah. Thanks for that, Gary.
All right, thanks for that share, Shivani. And as you said, on these platforms, we believe in research, and we don't ever come to these platforms to speak on any issue unless we know it, one, or unless we research it, two, and three, unless we know the solution. And Shivani would have pointed out early on that you have to be trained. Sometimes you're between a rock and a hard place, and it's your way of thinking got you there. And with the right exposure, the right training, we can get you unstuck. The last thing that you want to do when you're in a path with the self-determined is to be in a place where you're going to stop. So to help get you unstuck, I want you to go to this website that is shown here. This website will take you directly to a page where you will be exposed to a training program that we call Proactive Leaders Ecosystem. It's a free program. But on this program, you will be exposed to essential bodies of knowledge that's going to help you to make better, smarter business decisions and definitely help you to predetermine. The icing on the cake is that when you get into this program, a free program, I don't know how long it's going to be free for, but you need to take action now. When you get into this program, you will also be exposed to Paul, the BFC, the business finance consultant. So we're going to train you to develop the mindset to help you to become that proactive leader, the leader that is thinking ahead, seeing beyond problems, and empowered to take informed action to achieve your desired results. And then we're going to put you in contact with Paul, and Paul is going to help you to access the various type of capital depending on the stage you are in business, so you can grow and scale your business. You will also get in contact with Shivani. She's going to help you to understand what is project management and the role that project management plays in helping you to self-determine, the role that project management plays in helping you to leapfrog and grow and scale your business. You're going to be in contact with all the movers and shakers that can really help you to take your business to the next level. So again, we're not just here for the gaff. We are here to identify the challenge and then to table the solution to help you, rising stars in business, to realize your dreams, your hopes, and your aspirations. Shivani, you have made a point early on, and I just want to chime into it a little bit before I go to Paul, and then we're going to start doing some wrap up after Paul. You did mention access to money. Is how important it is. And as you talk about it, both you and Paul spoke about this. You also mentioned education, and a light bulb went off in my head. You spoke about networking, so the light bulb does go off. Is it the money that we need, or is it the education or the networking that is more important? Because what I recognize there, Shivani, you may not have the money, and as Paul said it, there's tons of monies out there. You may not know about it. You have debt, equity, credit, creative finance, and hard money lending. You got money. You got equity investors. They got money out there. Not because you don't have access to it means it's not there. But guess what? With the education and with the networking, you said it. You can bring down some of those barriers. All right. And what we're going to do on these platforms that we have, when you come into our community, you get in the education, you get in the network, you get in the support, you get in the mentorship, the coaching, the sponsor. There's so much more that they're going to get when they come into our community, Shabani. So that was just an aha moment for me when you spoke about networking. Paul, can you walk us through the different type of financial instruments that you have? So a rising star in business who might be saying, I don't have capital to self-determine. You can help them to get a different perspective now. All to you, Paul.
Thank you. Well, you can see it. Anybody who wants to check it out, patriotbfc.com. You can see what we do. There's a few more things that we do that's really not on our website. But equipment financing, real estate financing, commercial and investment properties, factoring and purchase order financing, hard money lending. And you asked me earlier to zero in and focus on the specific program and explain it real quick. Let's talk about hard money lending. So what is that? It's how to get money quick for a piece of real estate. Sometimes when you hear that term, you think, oh, that's only for difficult credit. No, it's not. It's for things that you have to act fast on. Quick closings, 2-week closing instead of 4 or 5 weeks, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Now, hard money lending, credit score plays into it with some hard money lenders. There's some other hard money lenders who don't care at all what your credit score is, as long as you don't have liens, you're not involved in a lawsuit right now, and there's something, or in a bankruptcy. There's some things that we cannot get. But hard money lending means They focus on the value of the property, not necessarily the borrower. Yes, the borrower plays into it, absolutely, but not to the extent that he plays into with other walk up the ladder. There's more stringent lenders all the way up the way. The SBA is the most stringent, right? Everywhere in the middle, difficult credit can still be financed, but we're talking about hard money lending, and the lenders only care about the value of the property. Do you, did you put the 35%? Can you put the 35% down? Yes, that means they're in a position of strength if they have to take the property back and resell it to get their money back. That's all. That's the only thing that the lender cares about, that they're able to get their money back. Why do they do that? Why do they do hard money lending? What's the cost of it? It's expensive. You're looking anywhere from 11 to 15% interest rate. Okay. That might, if you're hearing me right now and you're scared and you step back, you're like, I'll never do that. I'm scared of that. If you're going to pay 15% for for 6 months or 1 year, does it matter in the big scheme of things? If your profit margin is here, right there, and that 15% just takes a little chunk out of your profit margin, but you can still get the deal done because otherwise you wouldn't have been able to get it done without using hard money lending. Does it really matter? I don't think it does. You're still making a chunk of money. That's just another expense. You're making a little bit less, but if you didn't use this as a tool, then you wouldn't have made a dime. You would have walked past the deal. So hard money lending, it's going to be a 1 year term or a 2 year term. You're going to have 1 or 2 years. That's and then you got to refinance it and find a way to escape from it and pay them back, and get new financing on that property. If there's difficult credit and you decide you need to use hard money lending to take control of that property, well, that means you better make a plan and you better be self-determined to follow through that plan because you got to improve your score over the next 2 years so you can refinance it. Is that possible? Yes, it is. Just make the payments on time and things go up. So hard money lending, they only care about the value of the property. The interest rates are high. The closings are quick. The term is only 2 years. Hard money lending is like a specific tool being used at a specific time. It's not what you use all the time for real estate financing, but there's a place for it. That's why it exists, because there's a place for it. And sometimes it's the right tool to use. So that's one thing we have available. I just want to, you guys were talking about some business owners like KFC and stuff like that. Well, I got a really good example of a determined, and I think self-determined. Okay, it's a descriptor. It has to exist. Self-determination versus determination. I think it's the same thing. If you're self-determined, you're determined. If you're determined, then you are self-determined at the same time. I don't know how they can be separated. They are, but I think it's one ball of action right there. Okay. Second chance body armor. In the 60s and 70s, police departments did not wear body armor. Even in the 80s, they didn't wear body armor. Then they started wearing body armor. One of the first companies that came into existence that provided body armor for civilian, like us, regular people, and police departments, they were called Second Chance Body Armor. And you can find this guy on YouTube if you want to, and you should, because it's interesting. Because what you'll see is a person, as a man who is self-determined. Self-determination for him had to take place with when he came up with the concept. It had to take place when he was doing the research and development. It had to take place during the manufacturing of the body armor. But here's how where it took it to another level: the marketing and the salesmanship. Guess what he did to sell his product? He traveled the country and did in-person demonstrations in front of police departments, police chiefs, whoever the yes people were who were going to say, yes, we'll buy this. He took a 44 Magnum pistol or a revolver. That's a powerful handgun. He put the vest on himself. He didn't pay somebody to do it, a stand-in. He took a couple of phone books, put them underneath between his chest and the body armor to absorb some of the blow. He turned it around, pulled the triggers with his thumbs, and shot himself over and over and over again at demonstration after demonstration after demonstration. I don't know how many times he, shot himself or shot the armor while he was wearing it, but it was a lot because he sold it. He was determined to sell his company. He was determined to prove his point, and he did, right? You, if you're willing to do that, you're standing behind your product, literally. So that's a big, in my opinion, that's a huge example of self-determination and belief in your product.
Um, love it, love it, love it. And those are some of the skill sets that they will learn to Paul, and the art of the sale, and they will learn about marketing when they come into our community. So I want to encourage persons to go to this website and visit www.bestsellerportal.org. Now, when you get to this website, I want you to stay on the front page. I want you to scroll down to the second item on that page, and it will bring you to the business success blueprint. You're learning the very first element of this program, which is the proactive leaders ecosystem. This program will really teach you how to think ahead, how to see beyond problems, and how to take informed action to achieve desired results. Not action. Sometimes you need to change action into informed action. Informed action is when you're working with your mentors, your coach, your sponsors, your supportive community to drive your success. And we're here to help you with that. Paul, as you and Shivani was talking also, another thing popped out. What popped out is that I need to say it, and I did say it to everyone who's listening and those who will be listening to the replay. But just before I go into this, I want to thank the many thousands of persons who have been supporting this platform. Over the last 2 months, we have 30,000 plus new subscribers who have been supporting the program. And we are reaching over 50 countries in the world. So I want to thank those viewers, those listeners, those supporters who are supporting this community. We still have a far way to go in terms of building out this platform. And we welcome you on this journey to help us build this platform into a true global brand. But this is what I want to say to you. Position yourself to self-determine. I repeat this. Position yourself to self-determine. Your fairy tale godfather and mother, they're dead. They're dead. So you need to position yourself to self-determine. The beauty about it is that myself, Shivani, and Paul, we come close to your fairy tale godparents because we want to help you, right? We want to help you. We're not the fairy tale godparents, but we have enough information. We have enough knowledge and experience to help you win at business and possibly win at life. Shivani, I'm going to turn to you. I would love to have your thoughts and your closing remarks, and then I come back to Paul to give his closing remarks, and then we wrap up.
Thanks, Gary. Now, when we're talking about self-determination, what is going through my mind? What helps people in leadership too? Because it's just a lot of things just coming again in my mind as you're speaking. What helps people to really self-determine as a leader? You have to have true self, as we keep saying, is self-leadership, right? You have to know about yourself and become more self-aware. But what helps a leader to do something like that? The person on the top. Because the person on the top gotta be able to understand this topic very well. Otherwise, you've seen a lot of issues with your staff, with people on the ground, with everybody, with your team. Especially whether you're in a small organization or a large organization, this is something that you need to understand. Your sense of self, and how do you self-determine? For me, it got a lot to do with competence as well. How can we now gain competence? So if you put me to talk in a project management forum or anything like that, I am very comfortable because I think that I have developed some type of competence in it. So, you put me to talk there and I will love, I can speak about any topic surrounding a project, the entire ecosystem. So for self-determination and to understand self, you've got to develop some type of competence, right? Whatever you view competence to be, whether as a leader, as a business, and how do you get the competence? Of course, we will say it's with continued practice, because coming and listening and just in a classroom environment, it's not going to give you the practice that you can. You need to practice your field. You need to practice it. So self-determination, it's a wonderful topic. It is a topic that can help every single body, right? We need to understand how to gain this type of training, what type of training it is. Is it then at the end, I will be able to practice and to become more self-determined? Is it going to, am I going to change? So look at not only a classroom environment to teach you something like this, but the world should be your classroom, right? The world should be your classroom. When you go out, you see things, you start to talk to people, you get views and perspectives differently. So self-determination, key takeaways I hope people are having from this conversation is that project management can definitely help you. The different types of methodologies can help you. Training, networking, just going out, as you say, socializing and being able to relate to certain things. To relate. It's something I was speaking about again recently with someone. So you see, I speak with a lot of people and that's how I learn, right? I'm not learning staying in a classroom, but I'm speaking with people and that's how I learn. You may trigger something in my mind and that's how I will learn. Is the topic on metaphors, and these metaphors when you learn, and I think Paul is someone, I've learned that from him too. He come about with all these different lines and his personification and similes and things he's doing as well. So when you do these things, you are able now to help me to understand something better. So self-determination, it's a lot about training and the different types of training that you could have. We need to use things to make people relate to the topic. That's what I'm trying to say, to relate to something. Because how could you change somebody's mindset? You can't change somebody just so. It got to be related to something. So understand, you have to understand me first, understand what makes me tick. If it's coffee, then you relate the topic to me. And hey, I will change because I listening to you and you making me want to hear more. So thanks for that, Gary. So it's a whole topic, and I wait to hear, to listen, to talk more. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Shivani, you've made some great points. One of the gems that I took away is that you need to have some skill. I took that away very, very clearly, and you're right. What I want to add to that, you don't have to have a sophisticated skill. I mean, your skill could be a simple skill,
Mhm.
all right? But whatever it is, you want to use it to scale yourself and to the highest level. And I just want to talk a little bit about a great mind. Many of you may or may not know Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor is one of the greatest speakers the world has ever known. And he came in that movie, The Law of Attraction. A great mind. But guess what? He failed at many things, and he thought he had actually failed at life because what he was doing, he was cleaning offices and cleaning the restrooms, and he was doing the average job until he had an aha moment. And that aha moment is, how can he take his knowledge of cleaning offices and private residence, how can he take this knowledge and make it into a business? And guess what he did? He made it into one of the most thriving businesses in the US with multiple branches throughout the US. It became a multi-million-dollar operation. Then he did what managers do, the 20/80 rule. He gave 80% to his team to manage. He took 20%, and he was just at that strategic level. And he went on to do greater things. Self determination. He became a great public speaker known across the world, generating millions and millions of dollars annually from his speaking engagement. So I love what you said. It don't have to be a complicated thing that you master it, but you just want to put yourself in that position where wherever you're at, you want to be comfortable with it, and you want to see scalability in all of this. And I'm happy to say that we have the expertise to help you with that. Wherever you are, we can help you elevate and expand in your area of competency. Frank, Paul, your closing remarks. I had to say Frank, right? The ball air thing, right?
All right.
Your closing remarks, Paul.
If you're trying to figure out whether it's me or Frank, just look a little further down. Frank's got a goatee. I don't. There's other obvious differences, but that's all right.
Y'all got similar face structure too, buddy.
I love listening to everybody on this show talk, and I love listening to Shivani. She is so smart. Seriously. All right.
Without a doubt, she is.
No, but she said
Thank you,
something.
Paul.
Okay. She said something so awesome. I love it. The world is the classroom. Wow, that is huge. That's so powerful. I love that. Everybody you look at, you can look at people and figure out what you don't want to do, and you can look at people and figure out what you do want to do. And when you see what you do want to do, look deeper, look at more people who do that, learn from them. I love that. Um, and then determination is important. You need motivation to get that. It's there. Find what you love, find a reason to do it. If you don't love it, if you don't have a powerful reason to do it, it's probably not worth starting because you're not going to finish it. If you got to really want to do what you got to get into something if you're going to get it done and make it big. You have to. And to go for things don't have to take years. Things can happen in months. Things can happen in weeks. But however long it takes, you got to be determined to see it through. Determined, does that mean you got to work 20 hours a day? Sometimes, sometimes, but not all the time. You actually do need your rest to recuperate, to keep that level of motivation going. But the world's the classroom. Find something that you love. And when you do that, that self determination will probably appear, you know. And if it doesn't appear, then work on it, force it. Some things you have to force to happen, you know, like find a way, keep on going, get it done. And I'm just going to leave it with what Shivani said. The world's a classroom. Lots of good examples for you to learn from. And like my friend TJ Williams says, you can, his favorite 4 words, you can act now. You can and act now.
Great. I'm gonna add to it. Just do it.
Yeah, right.
Just do it. Good. And my last words here today, I want to say this again. Position yourself to self-determine. Regardless of where you are in life, position yourself to self-determine. In other words, I'm saying take ownership of your life. Take ownership of where you are. Position yourself to self-determine because good things is not coming to those who wait. If you were expecting your fairy tale god mom and dad to bring it to you, fairy tale god mom and dad, they're dead. Self-determined. Position yourself to self-determine. I believe in you, and it's time that you start believing in yourself. And myself, Shivani, Paul, we are here to give you full support. If you have a business and you want to grow and scale, we're here to give you full support to take your business to another level of development. You can start small, but you must be willing to expand. The reason we're talking about this topic, you can start small, but you must be prepared to grow fast, because once we come on board, it's to help to fast track the growth of your business. And that's why we are here. All right. Not to keep you stuck, it's to get you unstuck. So I want to thank my team for being here today. It's always such a pleasure and an inspiration to have Shivani. And you see, today's a holiday. I want to say happy Good Friday to people in the Caribbean. I know this is not a big day or a day that is being celebrated the, in the U.S. and in the developed world, but I still want to say happy Good Friday, to the those who are the Christians, as beginning to celebrate the Christian holiday. I want to say hello to all of you guys, and trust that you guys truly give service in commemoration of what this season is truly about. For the audience, our audience, I want to thank you also for always supporting this program. We continue to get hundreds and thousands of comments in the chat, and so thanks for doing all of that. And you're helping us to keep the fire alive and to continue doing this good fight and that we are doing. So do enjoy the holiday. And again, I want to thank my team for being here today. I want to thank Paul. And he's very passionate about ensuring that he helps businesses to grow and scale, access capital. And Shivani passionate about helping businesses to understand more about project management and how to apply these as tools and to grow and scale their operation. So in our community, we have a number of dynamic personalities that are here committed to help you elevate and scale in business. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye, Shivani, goodbye, Paul, and Paul, I'll see you tomorrow. Shivani, see you on Monday. Do enjoy the weekend ahead of you, and we'll talk soon.